Hello, legends. Today I catch up with my very good friend and very long actually, standing Cub member, Dan Breese. Dan is from ASY Global, which is an international staffing company that has, I think it was like over 1,500 staff under management. And me and Dan are very good friends, and we had a really widespread conversation from the effects on international staffing and offshore staffing from COVID, flexible work and how it's had a positive impact on business and everything in general, ways to get people back into the office, things government should be doing to bring our cities back to life, and much more, including balancing business and family and all sorts of things. It was a fantastic conversation. Enjoy the show. D Breeze, welcome back to the show.
Good to be back. It's a Rebel tour. It's good to be back.
Yeah, it is. Well, you're probably only one of two people that have done 2 episodes. And I literally just looked on the App Store. Sorry, not the App Store, the podcast app. It was exactly 3 years ago. It was October 21 that we did the first episode.
It feels like it was 6 months ago.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it?
Yeah. It's I think COVID's kind of thrown a spanner in the works as far as time. I don't know about you, but I feel like the time over COVID, although it dragged on forever, it feels like a small moment. But it's good to be back.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Well, what's been happening? What's new in the world of international staffing?
God, what's happening?
What's the market like for that at the moment? Like
it's been, I guess you'd probably use this word in property circles. It's been buoyant. So I think at the moment what we're seeing is, if we go back to the COVID days, the appetite around COVID was this whole war on talent piece, right? Everyone's like, I can't find people, can't find talent. Obviously immigration had come to a standstill. So this whole war on talent piece was what was driving growth back then. So I was thinking, well, we're riding a nice little wave here. How long is this going to last? Add to that then since then, really the learning curve that came out of that was, hang on, we can work from home or we can work in a distributed fashion. So that now has become a real educator for all of us, not just our business, but for every business, being able to have remote staff or distributed staff or staff working in other cities in the same country. All of that now has become almost a given, or a norm.
It's definitely become normal.
For sure. And look, I'm happy to see that there is a bit of a return to work mentality, which is great as well. But the reality is that has it's validated for us what we've already been doing for a really, really long time.
Which is your staff don't have to work in your specific, your vicinity, basically.
Correct. So that's been a really good educator. So then you've got the war on talent piece, and then you've got the education piece around staff working from anywhere. So that's been great. I think, this is really good. And I think now you've got those two things coupled with the fact that talent's still really hard to find. We're still pretty...
It's impossible right now.
Yeah.
I actually think it's one of the biggest issues
for
Australian businesses. Like, a lot of businesses aren't doing well anyway because the economy's pretty fucked.
Yeah.
But the ones that are doing well are like, okay, I need to grow, I need to do something.
Yeah.
And then they go to hire someone to help them grow and they literally can't find them.
Yeah. So I think that those first two factors and what you just touched on, the fact that also it's the inflation aspect of the local economy is making things hard for business, and they're thinking differently about how they grow on the back of the learnings that they probably had over COVID. So I think back to the original question, how is it going? Things have been really, really good. We're very fortunate that, over the last 13, 14 years, we've had some fantastic clients, so...
But do you think that the COVID causing kind of flexible work, that's had a net positive benefit to the world of offshore staffing or international staffing?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think broadly it has had an enormous positive impact for us.
And what about the very low unemployment rates in Australia?
Yep.
Would that also help? Because I don't know what the rates of other countries are, but I'm assuming there could be higher unemployment in other countries, and which makes it, if I can't hire someone in Australia, well, I should look elsewhere.
It's coincidental that you say that. So for us, a tight working unemployment rate here is good for us, because it means that people need to look more broadly for talent. So that I think we want to see a strong Australian employment economy for us. And I think, interestingly, though, that businesses probably underestimate is that it's equally as a tight unemployment rate in the locations that we're in as well. So that means that strategic talent sourcing and recruitment becomes really pivotal for these clients who want the top 5% of talent in that market. That talent, just like here, doesn't come cartwheeling through your front door. It means that there has to be a very strategic approach to finding that talent. To give context to that, I think the Philippines, as of August, their unemployment rate was 4% as well.
Oh, wow.
So it's about the same. So, Vietnam around, we have an office in Ho Chi Minh as well. COVID, their unemployment rate was around 2.9. So it's, I think that.
I wonder if that unemployment rate dropped though, because during COVID, companies needed to cut costs, so they or reduce costs, I should say. So they went overseas, and I wonder if like the Philippines, I wonder if that happened, if the unemployment rate went to 4%, if that happened at the same time as Australia, or if Australia went, and other countries, if they went first, and then they were like, okay, we can't find anyone higher from the Philippines, and that would have brought their rate down as well.
I think, the main driver for the Philippines in particular is the US. So if the US is struggling, with their own, inflation problems and what have you, and that's been pretty well publicised. But I think, we did see in the Philippines unemployment, bounce up when COVID initially happened, and that was mainly because a lot of businesses had a knee-jerk reaction and were sort of being preventative rather than waiting to see what would wash through. And the reality was, majority of businesses maintained continuity, and then it became, hang on a minute, we've reduced headcount, but we need all these people back. So, but for a moment in time there, unemployment rate in the Philippines was much higher, but now it is well and truly, back to finding really, really good people is hard.
I just think this whole change in like it's basically you can be more creative in your working environment as a business.
Yeah, for sure.
Because back in the day, if you didn't have an office, you weren't really a business. No one wanted to work with you. No. Now these days you can be like, no, we don't have an office because we like our team to be remote and to have lifestyle, and people are like, oh wow, go you. And so it's given more power to businesses actually to be able to create a situation that works best for that specific business. My guess, which I think is great, my guess as to what's going to happen long term, and I'd be curious on your thoughts on it, but my guess is that all small businesses are going to be work from home, all big businesses are going to be work from the office, and the middle I'm kind of undecided, but I'm going to lean towards work from the office with a slightly more progressive ability to work from home as well, more so than the larger corporations. So I reckon small's going to be fully 100% at home, big's going to be 100% in the office, and the middle is going to be they're not going to be in the middle, they're going to be more towards the office, but they'll probably have a bit of flexibility.
Well, I think, whether this sustains or not, you're already seeing in the media the mandatory return to work with big businesses now. And then those that aren't doing that, you can see they're putting a large micromanagement, productivity over their staff. So, you can work from home, but by the way, we're just going to absolutely
measure everything.
Yeah. So there's that piece which you're seeing in the really big enterprise level of business. And then
basically make it so hard for you to work from home. You may just come to the office. We won't check you that much if you're in the office.
And then I think in the smaller and mid-size, I think on the back of COVID, a lot of businesses probably came to the realisation that, and everyone wants hybrid employment, are looking for working from home and from office. So that's really important. And I think the challenge businesses have now got is how do I provide both without it being commercially unviable? And that's we're seeing the name escapes me, but it's almost like that true sizing of what they actually need now moving forward. A lot of businesses obviously reducing their real estate footprint and all those things.
Man, the buildings in the city, other than the high-end premium buildings, which are still renting out pretty well because those that have a lot of money, the businesses that have a lot of money still have a lot of money. They actually have more money since COVID. But the B and C grade buildings, like commercial towers and commercial spaces, they're still struggling. Like you can get serious incentives on much reduced rents than you ever could. But before COVID, and I hate talking about COVID because I'm done with it, but we were trying to get into the city in Sydney and Melbourne for years. We couldn't even find a space available to take. Even if it was a piece of shit space, we would have taken it. We couldn't even find one. And only because of COVID, were we even able to get into the city. And now there's an abundance of city spaces available still. So it definitely hasn't returned to what it was. No way.
The next 12 months are going to be really interesting to see what happens, with, you sort of said the bigger businesses are now pushing for it. Will some of the smaller mid-sized businesses start doing that? Or will they hold back in with the goal of trying to maybe drag some of their talent, because of their flexible working arrangements and things like that. I mean, for us, a big part of what we do, and a lot of our clients work in professional services, and so we're talking insurance and law firms and medical businesses and health businesses, our finance. So those businesses have got a real importance on data security. So for us, having bricks and mortar in each of our operational locations.
Like in each of your countries and cities.
Yeah, so, in the Philippines, it's Manila. In Bonifacio, global city. So then in Vietnam, it's Ho Chi Minh. In Malaysia, it's KL. And more recently, we opened in Thailand, in Bangkok. So each of those locations has a dedicated office, and we're seeing a lot of our staff wanting to spend time in the office. But at the same time, each client has different needs and different motivators. So again, it comes down to their needs. But it's going to be a really interesting space in the next 12 to 18 months as to what happens locally here. And what we see more broadly. You
know what else is interesting? I've never actually thought about this before, but the interest rates having the sharp jump that they did. But when the interest rates were low, everyone was like, "Oh, I'm going to put a home office. I can have a big enough home to have a home office and to have, I convert one of the bedrooms or whatever it may be." It would be interesting to see, because I don't think the interest rate's coming down for a very long time. They might go down, a couple notches, but certainly not to where they were forever, basically. But it would be interesting to see if over the next year to two that people then have to downsize. A lot of people have too much mortgage stress. They may downsize their homes. And would a downsize in home cause an increase in office attendance? Because I no longer have the space or the setup to be able to work. I want to go into the office to work, to actually get out of the home, to have a bit more space and room.
Yeah, I do think, whether this is right or not, my gut feel is that if the government want to incentivise people to get back into the city's CBD areas and get the vibrancy that it had, pre-pandemic, I think the reality is that a lot of people now who are very accustomed to working from home probably now see the idea of coming into the office as being somewhat of an inconvenience. It's going to cost me to come in. Oh, it's going to be this, or it's going to be that.
The time. I've got to wake up early. I can't go to the gym.
And all those things, I get it. Like, those things are inconvenient. So I think how do you offset that inconvenience and incentivise employees to come in, not so much on a company level, but on a government level? And I think it's probably a very wild idea, but I actually think they need to then completely subsidise public transport and go, well, if you want to get more cars off the road and open up, the road works, if you want to get people in, make public transport free.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
Whether it comes off or not, it's a very big statement. But
it is, but I'll tell you what, I mean, if I was leader of Australia, I'll tell you what I'd do.
What a thought.
Yeah, I'll tell you what good thought. I can see some.
It's terrifying.
I tell you what I tell you what I do, though, to get people back into the cities. Make the cities more fun. So, what they should be subsidising? They should be subsidising, or at least making regulations better for hospitality. Let the restaurants, the bars, the nightclubs rip. Make the streets have full with cafes, walking streets. Make the city beautiful and vibrant. People spend money to have fun.
Yeah, that's why Vivid goes so well, right?
Of course. If you go to the office and everyone's in the office, you've got friends in the office, I can work a bit, but then I can go out, I can have dinner, have a drink. It gets me out of the house. I'm not stuck in the house all day. And you watch everyone come back in. The problem right now is, okay, I come in the city, go to the office. There's no good food. The food's too expensive because the rent's too cheap for the restaurants and the cafes and the thing. So it sucks. I can't even eat. Then I got to cook the food to bring it in. And in the evenings and afternoons and night times on Thursdays or Fridays or any of that, I can't really go out anymore because there's nowhere to go, and the places that there are available are too packed or too expensive. I reckon if you let people have fun, and potentially, if you just let them have fun, and let hospitality thrive in our cities, which really, other than high taxes at a stupidly low income level, where you can't even afford to buy a house, like
Yeah.
180 grand, 200 grand, whatever it is. I can't, if I was earning 200 grand, I literally couldn't buy a house, but you can take 50% of my money. I don't know how that makes sense, but other than that, which is ridiculous, the one thing, Australia is really perfect. The only thing we need more is just hospitality. We need more like culture in our cities and vibrancy in our cities and more cities.
I will say that one of the things that I was thinking about on the way here, and I'm often reminded with our clients, is how lucky we really are. And I think because we've got, I'm constantly reminded that we have 1,700 staff now. So
Jeez.
it's a big business and it's been a hell of a ride. But I think that one of the great things that I really enjoy about our business is I'm constantly reminded about how fortunate we have it locally here. And that is when you have staff that are in developing countries or emerging economies, as we call them now, because they are fast growing. There is a lot of investment, and they are catching up. But the reality is that we are extremely fortunate to have the health infrastructure and the transport infrastructure that we have locally here. That we, and I think when you see developing countries and emerging economies like the Philippines, for example, I think that often we take it for granted as to how great the local landscape here really is.
We're the best country in the world.
It's the luckiest country in the world.
It's the safest. It's
Yeah,
the cleanest.
it's amazing.
We're the prettiest. We've got the best people. We have the best everything. We're the best country. And you know what else? Just with the hospitality, you wouldn't even need to subsidise anything if you were government. If you wanted to bring hospitality back, you could probably do a few things, make labour more affordable for them and things like that. But if you just allowed the work lunch back, the business lunch, allowed businesses to, charge their lunches and charge restaurant bills and charge everything to the business, which now you can't do anymore. Or if you do it, you got to, I ate this, he ate that, and therefore she has to pay for this. You can't do it. If you just let it be so the businesses could go out, have expensive lunches, get nice bottles of champagne and wines and entertain clients like they used to back in the day. I was on my phone before. I was trying to see which government cancelled that. If you just did that, you watch the hospitality industry thrive.
I can say that I'm personally contributing to make that. I'm doing my bit. Put it that way.
Good.
Yeah, the long lunches are certainly alive in our business, which is great. But I think that look, like anything, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So I think that Murphy's Law. I think that we will get back to the point where cities are vibrant and hustling again. I just think it's going to be a slow way back. And if we were locked down for a number of years, which we were, the reality is it's going to take a number of years, I think, for us to get back to the level which I think I'm excited about. I think that's a great thing.
But I think we landed at a good point. If you want to get people back into the city, make travelling easier and cheaper, and give them more reason to want to be in the city.
Yeah,
make it more fun.
Yeah, and I think a lot of businesses now are doing that. It is hard for smaller businesses to do the kinds of things that bigger businesses are doing. Bean bags and hockey tables and who knows whatever hell sleep pods and whatever these guys are doing, snack packs and all these things that the big the Atlassians and of the world are offering. The reality is that small businesses probably don't have access to those types of resources. So how do they also then incentivise staff to come in? And I think those guys are constantly, trying to navigate that.
About
no, they
sleep
don't.
pod? I don't want to sleep at work. In fact, if I caught one of my team sleeping at work, I'd be like, "What the fuck are you doing? You're supposed to be working."
I agree.
I
it's actually the reality is that is whilst it gets promoted as being employee benefit. The reality is if your staff are so exhausted that they're having to sleep on site, that they're working far too much for that organisation.
Actually, that's an amazing point.
Yeah.
I went to Google's offices a few times and in Sydney, and I learnt a lot. So, first of all, their office isn't in the city.
Right.
Right. They've put it in, I believe it's Piedmont. I may be wrong there, but I'm fairly certain it's Piedmont. So it's not in the city where everyone else is. They've kind of taken them from the city. Then they've given them absolutely everything. And they're really smart. And obviously Google staff love it. And it's all incredible. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. But I just feel like I could see what they were doing. It's kind of like they want to give you zero reason to
go
leave
anywhere.
the office. Yeah, none.
Yeah.
You want to go to the gym? You go downstairs.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
if you forgot your laptop at home, here's a laptop. They've got vending machines with laptops for them. You know, and it's almost hyper intelligent because it's kind of like, I want to take away any distraction absolutely possible for any staff member at any time so they can be 100% productive. And then I can frame that also as like, look how great we are to our team, which they are. But it's also a great strategy of like, it's almost like isolation and give them everything they want so they never leave. But I think what humans really want, especially right now, is community. And if you're a small business and you've got 4 people or 5 people and you all really love hanging out together and, you know, you working in the office, laughing every day, and on Fridays you might go for lunch and have a drink and, you know, and it's a community other than your friendship community and your family community. It's that third community.
I think it's the underlying piece within that is connection, right? So I think that, and we see this a lot in social media, right? Where you connect on social media, but in reality, as an individual, you're probably more disconnected on a human level than you have ever been before.
Way more.
Which obviously, and there's a conversation around young kids and all, and which is, you know, I'm glad to see that's getting the attention it needs. But I think that one of the things I've often thought about with a completely distributed work environment is, I can only speak on my behalf, but a lot of the learnings that I have developed, but then also continue to learn, is by way of watching other people in the flesh dealing with hard conversations or difficult, strategy decisions and things like that. I think if you remove that opportunity, how do you garner that skill in a distributed environment? I think that's probably one of the big overarching challenges that businesses will have to navigate is, and the networking opportunities that you genuinely build on a more deeper personal level that you create by being in person. So I think, the community piece, the connection piece, is so important.
And if you're not watching leadership work really hard and you're not in their vicinity, then you also lose you lose the inspiration in a sense. Because like if you're a young lawyer and I'm a young woman, I've got big ambitions, I want to be a partner in this big law firm, and I'm not coming into the office and I'm not seeing the partners work real hard and like how they carry themselves, and like because people learn from each other, like you're saying, they learn from watching. If I'm not actually experiencing what the partners are doing, like you'd probably lose motivation because you're not seeing those that have succeeded. You're not seeing what it's taken for them to succeed. You're just seeing them have succeeded.
Well, I think the other piece is that those that are potentially, again, it's going to be unique to different companies and different environments, right? So it's not a one size fits all, I'm sure, but
definitely,
for those whereby some really valuable IP can be garnered from being in the office. Those that are there are probably growing on a personal level at a far quicker rate than those that aren't. And I think that then in self-reflection are those people who aren't in there at all at a disadvantage over the longer term. And I think that potentially they are, but I mean, ultimately there's going to be...
But each to their own. That's the thing. That's what I love about this flexible working. It's that just because, for example, if I want this model with everyone's in the office, that doesn't mean that that's the best model or the right model for everybody.
No, agreed.
There will be a business owner who does not want that because they don't want to pay for the office. And their mortgage has gone up, they need more money. Oh, great, I don't need to have an office. There might be a mum or dad who doesn't want to work ridiculous hours in the office, and they want to just have a great job that they love to do. It's stable, it's consistent, and I can have time to spend with my family, and I can work from home. That is perfect for them.
For sure.
And what I love about this flexibility now, it's like being more creative, like in business.
Yeah.
So if I'm someone looking for a job, I can look for a job at the companies that offer me the best type of work environment for me personally.
I think the importance of good managers now and understanding what makes people tick. And if you think about employees as as athletes, I guess, how to get the most out of your athlete on game day, which is every day, I guess, so that you work coming to work. Some of those guys are going to really benefit from an in-person experience. Some of those guys are going to really value the opportunity to be able to spend more time with their family, which then gives them motivation to come to work. So I think having the good management, people who really understand that.
Each person as an individual.
Correct. Are going to be the ones that see the greater outcomes long term, benefit for the business. And that's not easy. That's a real, like if you're running a team of a dozen people and each one of them has a different set of values, which I'm sure they do, and then managing that team in a distributed environment, that has some complex, nuances to it. So having the right systems and process around that is really, really important.
Yeah, I think everyone was there was a big push for this one that everybody should be able to work from home. Like that's the best way to do it. I think that, and that's great because it opened up this new possibility. But what I think's most important now is that, okay, well, now we know there's several ways to work. The best way to manage or lead is to actually care about each individual person. Like we can't have a one size fits all work situation for everybody. Someone might have a family commitment in some way, which means that they need to do X, and someone else might not have any of that, and so they want Y. And then, so it's really about how can I create the best possible situation for each of my individual employees to help them work better, and also because life's obviously not just work as much as I would like, but it's not. And actually, what's most important about life is family and community.
Well, which you're about to experience, right?
Yeah. Next month, first child.
Yeah. I think that so one of the things that we do, I mean, obviously we've got a pretty sizable business now, but the nuances to talking about distributed teams, but then at the same time, there's a whole bunch of different clients, right? So each of those clients have a different motivation as to what their preference is around the office environment versus work from home, and that changes.
But wouldn't all your clients be essentially work from home because they're not working from the office, or they're working from an office in a different country, I guess?
So the answer to that is, if we have a client who's got a full-time working from office environment here locally in Sydney or Melbourne, wherever it may be, traditionally they would also want that team, say for example in Manila, to also be working in the office 5 days a week. Yes, and that's completely okay. So we can support that. And at the same time, if they're in a flexible working arrangement locally, they're typically also quite open to the idea of it being the same, internationally. So when you've got, a couple of hundred clients like we do, each one of those clients has a different set of motivations as to what that looks like.
Yeah, so you've really seen it all.
Yeah, it's been fun. So there's that. And then there's also obviously then on the employee side is making sure that they feel like they're getting the value out of the working relationship as well. And so that's a pretty nuanced approach. And we're, again, like everyone else in business world, that's constantly evolving. Fortunately, we've recently done a whole bunch of employee survey feedback, from all of our staff, and it's been overwhelmingly positive, which is great, and it's led to some great place to work certifications and things like that, which is really great. It helps us attract really good talent, but it also means that the talent feel like they're working in an environment where they are valued and where their clients value them as well. So
because of the fact that you're surveying them. So
yeah,
because
exactly.
you're
And
actually
measuring it.
Yeah, you're going out of your way to check to make sure if things are good or bad. Even just checking essentially is showing your team and that you've got, that you care, and you've got obviously a lot of people you've got to check on. But even if you had a team of 5 or 1, if you just ask them, hey, how's everything going? Are you happy? Is there anything we can do better? Even I think just asking, you're so right, is going to make that person really appreciate you more and love the business more, and just feel a bit like people
valued.
People want to feel valued. I
think the as we the one thing about it's an old saying, right? Like you manage what you measure. So for us, that becomes an opportunity for continual improvement for our business. So the feedback that you're getting from staff and clients, feedback from clients as well, is ultimately where you can narrow the gap to perfection. No one's perfect. We're constantly trying to improve. Mistakes happen along the way, I'm sure. I'd like to think that the feedback from client and employees is ultimately what tomorrow's business will look like. By adopting or implementing those changes or those recommendations. So for us, it's really important to continually get that feedback from employees, from clients. Where are the gaps? Where can we improve? On the employee side, back to sort of the in-person stuff. A lot of the feedback has been that they really do enjoy those opportunities to engage and get together. So that's really pleasing for us that there's an environment there that they can tick that box. They can come in, feel like they're getting some kind of community, to steal your word, environment, and not just a sort of distributed, working from home full time. So that I think is pleasing. It means we're on the right track.
How do you manage? I mean, we mentioned kids before. The business has grown significantly since we last spoke.
Yeah.
You have 2 daughters, yes?
2 girls, yeah.
How have you managed being a dad and a parent?
Yeah.
With a business that's growing a lot.
It's not easy. I think anyone in any role, leadership or otherwise, if you're if you've got young family at home, and our youngest is now almost 5, so she kind of arrived, right in the thick of COVID, really. Oh, yeah. So at the start, when you're working from home full time, they're in your arm's reach the whole time, which is great. And now that work is back to some sense of normality, I'm probably not in person with them as much as I was over COVID. But then I don't think many people could say they are. It's hard. To be honest, I find it really hard when working from home. I'm not sure if others are the same, but I find it very hard to click out of business mind into dad or family or husband mind if I'm working from home. Yeah. I've got as you mentioned before, I've got a home office. I'm downstairs. I'm punching away some work. I'm doing some meetings with people online, and then next minute my wife's like, okay, let's have dinner or what have you, and I've finished a conversation with a client, with Dan and Kim 5 minutes ago. My mind is still absolutely flying.
And if it was with Dan and Kim, it probably pissed you off.
Yeah. So then I'm thinking to myself, so being present with the girls. I find I've got to really focus on that and switch off. And I think there's little things that I'm doing to try and be better at that. I wouldn't say that I'm the best at that. I will say that when I am working in the office in the CBD, I find that the commute home is kind of my power down. So that I find there's benefit in that. I do find that when I do get home, I'm a bit more present than I would be if I was working from home, which sounds...
No, that's so interesting. I'm the same.
Yeah, right.
I've started walking home, actually.
Yeah, right.
And if I walk home, and I've made some phone calls, I call my family, maybe I call my sister, whatever it is. By the time I get home, I'm ready to just be home.
Yeah, yeah.
But if I'm working from home, and Alice, my wife, tries to talk to me, I might talk to her a bit more angrily or just because or if she asks me something I might not listen and I'm thinking about saying, and then she gets angry, I'm not listening. But it's because I'm still not ready to talk. I'm not. So actually, that's a great point, and that could be a benefit to transit.
Yeah, I think. To answer your question, I mean, I think any young family, anyone who's working with a young family, those that have mastered that, I admire. I don't think I will ever master it. I'm all constantly, kicking myself. There's things that don't work. Social media doesn't work for me. I find that I doom scroll too much, and then I get real guilty on myself for not spending that time with the kids. I'm like, I've just spent half an hour doing nothing. From a productivity point of view, I get really filthy on myself for that. So I'm like, right, that's it. So I just delete Instagram. I don't get access to it. And then on a weekend, I might fire it back up again, as I've got this kind of love-hate relationship with social. I haven't had Facebook in about 4 or 5 years. But so the things that I do to remove
the distraction. So that way, when you're home, you spend time with the kids.
Yeah.
I had dinner with Adrian Hondros, who I believe,
great man.
Yeah, he's fantastic. And I guess, like you, he's been a club member for God knows how long time. And I asked him, because obviously my baby's coming. I said, how did you spend much time with your kids, or like, because if you're focused on something, you have big goals and you're trying to work towards them, honestly, probably nothing's going to get that way for me. And which means, is that a bad thing? I said, did you not spend much time with your kids, or how did you balance that? How did you find the medium? He just said, it's not about quantity of time. It's about quality of time. And I really like that. When you're there and you spend time with them, even if it's just half an hour in the afternoon or in the evening or something like that, but you're fully present, you're doing something really kind of exciting with them, or part of the routine, or like you are there, like they've got their dad or their mum.
Yeah.
And I really took that. That's going to be my goal. It's going to be quality over quantity.
Yeah, it's not
I feel horrible saying that. But
no,
it'll be quantity too, but mostly quality.
It is hard. I think, as I said, the guys who have mastered it, I mean, I think that's great. I think having really good time management and knowing when to switch off. I'm one of those guys, if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't happen. Like literally, I've got to have reminders in my calendar to send people messages and things like that. Just I'm not talking family, like just really close people who I love and who know that I love them. I have to put reminders in to check in with people that I love dearly, because if I don't, it doesn't happen. So I'm one of those guys. I'm a very list-orientated person, a to-do list person.
Yeah, you need an EA. I'm sure you have one.
Yeah, so
you need someone telling you what to do.
Yeah, but I think having a real structure. I'm one of those guys that craves structure. So that really helps me, and I use that also, which sounds terrible probably to some people, but I use that structure element also on the family side. So. As far as down to this is the time I go to the gym, this is the time I come home, I spend time with the kids in the morning. When I get back, every night I play board games with the kids before they go to bed. So there's things that I do that I kind of make as best as possible non-negotiables. And then there's certain things that from a kid's side of things, and now they're getting a little bit older, that I have made sort of a real pact to my wife that there's certain occasions that I just won't miss. For example, my little one turns 5 in a couple of weeks. I'll be in Perth. I'm flying back. I'll be back about midnight on the Friday night to make sure I'm there for her birthday on the Saturday morning. So there's things there that, it would be easy to say, I'll stay an extra night and I'll come back later. And I'll still see her, but I want to be there when she wakes up.
You're more planned about it. That's
so it's...
No, I think
it's all coming your way, mate. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, well, I'm super excited about it.
Yeah.
Like I love nothing more than like doing something really great. Like that's what I love about business. It's like it's something that you can just obsess over forever and continue getting good at it, and it's just this journey, and you're building something that everyone knows you built. Like that's how I'm looking at parenthood. It's like I'm going to build a human. Like, how cool is that?
This is probably again something probably a terrible analogy, but my 5-year-old, almost 5-year-old, she's a little terrorist, man. She is just like so staunch and negotiating and everything. If I offer 2 lollies, she immediately says I want 3. Just immediately negotiates, rounds up the whole time. I think that having young kids has actually been beneficial for me on a business side of things in being able, because the patience that you learn having to negotiate with someone who refuses to negotiate and wants to throw their toys out of the cot or, throw themselves on the floor in the middle of a shopping centre or whatever that looks like, the patience and learnings that you gain out of that and the embarrassment that you get by people just walking past and your kids just having an absolute flip out, whilst not realised at the time, I think that there's some growth that happens by way of that. Yeah, good luck. It's going to be fun for you.
No, like I said, I'm super excited. I'm also super excited about these Cub Awards that we have coming up, which I know you guys are a big sponsor of.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, by the way.
You're welcome.
And thank you for bringing that to life. But, I'll never forget, probably when you joined, like, Cub, I don't know, I can't remember what year, but in probably 2015, which is the first year of Cub, I announced that we were going to host a business awards, and it took me 9 years to get there.
Yeah.
Sometimes the things I say take a bit longer than I intended them to, but they always get there.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to be able to create something that is going to celebrate the accomplishments and achievements of Australian business people.
Yeah.
And to have you guys support on that is just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, look, from our side, I think what you guys refer to as the OGs, like we've been now a member for a really long time, and over that journey, ASW has been very proud to partner with a whole bunch of different brands who are Cub members. And I was thinking about this when we decided to sponsor the awards. Was over the last 7 odd years or so of being a member of the group, there's been almost every industry imaginable that I can think of that have been Cub members have grown teams with us. So there's been marketing teams and engineering teams and solar, you name it. It's been really broad. Software teams, accounting teams. So it's been really diverse. And so for us, it's been, we're really proud to sort of been able to support the growth of those businesses on a people side, so.
Which is the hardest side.
Yeah.
It really is the hardest thing about business is people.
So, in our own business, whilst we're probably, we're now 13, 14 years old, over the last 7 years, going over that journey, there's been a lot of proud moments of working with a lot of the different clients over both Cub members and non-Cub members, and it made sense that when the awards came up that we got behind it, because again it's been a really enjoyable journey, and we still feel, even though again we've got this sort of large headcount now, I still feel one of the great attributes I think of our business currently is that, with Joe as our CEO, we're still quite agile, we're quite nimble, we still function and move like a small business, I feel. I think we make decisions quite quickly, I think we make improvements quite quickly. And in a lot of respects, I still feel like, although we're not, I still feel like a startup in some way. Oh, well, startup's not the right word. I feel like
know what you mean.
We're only scratching the surface, I guess, of what the opportunity for potential could look like.
You feel like I get it too. You feel like you're still so far from where you want to be.
Exactly. And I think for us, we have certainly come a long way, in our time with Cub, but and certainly since we first begun. But I feel like we're only scratching the surface. So which is bloody exciting.
It's an interesting mentality because that's how I feel all the time, no matter how big we get or how much we've done. So it's kind of like, is that what makes you keep working hard? But also, are you working hard to a never-ending?
I know, right?
Is there a goal?
I know, right? Yeah. And it's funny you say that because I was reading something recently that, ambitious people are very when they reach a certain milestone, their satisfaction, the dopamine of achieving that milestone is very short-lived. They very quickly go, okay, that's great. Now what?
If any.
Yeah.
If any.
Let's move to the next thing.
If it's just I should have been here years ago. Sometimes it's anger.
They're salty.
I can't believe I just got here now.
Yeah. So I think a lot of business leaders, business owners would probably have a very similar mindset to that, and that's just because they're probably not reflective or retrospective enough, and probably patting themselves on the back, and that's. I think a lot of business leaders would be guilty of that, but then that's because they're constantly searching for, the next improvement, the next goal, the next milestone, and
it's definitely not everyone. I know a lot of business people that they are able to stop and be proud of what they've done. Laura always looks to me and she's like, "Oh my God, are you proud right now?" If we had just done something big, I always say to her no. Or my old man's, my old man never says it to me, but family members might say, "Oh, you must be proud," or "Are you proud?" I'm like, "Not yet." I always say, "Not yet. I'm not yet. I have not built what I set out to build yet. When I build that thing, I will tell you." But,
there'll be signs. Yeah, there'll be an island getting purchased or something. Yeah.
But I do think I want to build. When we're the largest networking organization on the planet for business owners, I'll be proud. But then at that point, will I be like, still far away from what
they are traveling to Mars now. Could we go to Mars?
It's a sickness. It's and I don't know if it's good or bad. I do think you do need to stop to reflect. Okay, what have I done? In reality, any business owner, I'm talking from everybody. It's kind of in reality, even just starting my business is such a huge accomplishment because most people don't start.
No, it's huge.
Even just having the self-belief to believe I can build a successful business, that is a huge accomplishment. It's not the big things. I actually think it's probably it's the things that you've had the courage to do something most others wouldn't.
Yeah.
And often they're the smallest things.
Yeah, I think that certainly my own experience, but then also I think chatting with a lot of other business leaders, I think very few perhaps recognise just how big of an effort it is to build a business, to employ someone. I think those things are often underestimated as to how difficult it is to spin an idea into a material business that spins cash and pays people.
And everything sounds easy when you say it.
Yeah.
Like my brother called me 2 days ago. And this is his new studio, obviously you know that. But for the listeners, my brother just opened up a fantastic podcast and content creation studio called Wisecast. It's literally the closest one to the city. It's the cheapest of all the podcast studios, and it has the most set of any as well. So it is, anyway, all the club members are doing it here now, and that's where we're recording this. But he called me the other day, and he was like, I've got this idea, this is what it is, this is what it was. And I said, no, I was questioning it and challenging it, and not, it was a great idea, but I was just poking and prodding. And he was like, no, it's the right idea, because I was challenging it. And I said, well, then do it. I said, stop calling me, don't ask me. I said, just do it. Because if you can sell it, then it's a good idea.
Yeah, that's right.
So it just I can't remember how I got on this rant, but talking about anything is easy, and everything sounds easy when you talk about it.
Yeah.
We could do we're going to start a members club, and people are going to pay us, and then they're going to network, and they're all going to renew because it's so good. And anything's easy to say, but the true test is like what you're saying. Business is much harder than you think. The true test is just doing it.
Yeah.
If you can get out there, and I think the most important thing is selling it. If you get out there and you can sell it, you can figure out how to solve. You'll figure out how to deliver it.
I agree.
But it's. Are you selling something people want? And I just told him, I said, stop talking to me about it. Just go sell it. And after you're selling it, then we'll talk about it, because then we can figure out, okay, how can we make this even better? But if you can't sell it in the first place, then who cares?
I think the fact that when entrepreneurs and what have you are kicking off a business, they're often not thinking about the P&L, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I still haven't even thought about my P&L.
I think as soon as you look at P&L, that becomes a terrifying piece. I think the fact that
it can be scary too.
Yeah, that's right. So I think that the fact that having some gut intuition on something is enough initially to validate to go ahead with it. And I think that by doing that, it creates momentum. And then you often find out one way, either the good way or the bad way, whether or not it was worthwhile. But at least it gives you a way to pivot, walk away from it, or pursue it further.
But like young entrepreneurs or any new entrepreneur, they might be like scared of the P&L, like, I don't know what it is, how to do it, who does it for me. But like if you just go into business thinking, okay, this is quite simple. I just need to bring in more money than I let out. Like that is quite literally the game. It's like, can I bring more?
Fail less than you win. Yeah,
can I bring more in?
Win more.
Then I spend.
Yeah.
Is essentially the game of every single business. If you were like worried about what about P&L? I don't know how to do that. What's a balance sheet? I don't like. Forget it all. Don't worry. There's someone that'll figure it out for you. But if you just focus on if more money comes in on a daily basis than goes out, I'm good.
Yeah, you'll be okay.
That is business.
Yeah, you'll be okay. I think that.
Not to say P&Ls and things aren't important. You need but to simplify it is better.
I think if you're going to get any idea off the ground, the P&L is probably the thing that's going to stifle it from actually happening. So I like the idea that if there's ideas that need to be given some life, just do it. Do it, test it. And I think one of the things that I've really admired with a lot of the guys that we work with, a lot of the clients we work with, is they typically make decisions pretty quickly. And if I need to adjust, they adjust accordingly pretty quickly. So, the fail fast mentality, I think, is an underestimated skill that really good business leaders have, is that they go into things, I guess that they look at things from the cost of failure is probably less than not making a decision at all.
I agree with that.
And I think that approach, if going into things with a very this can't fail mentality, I would say, and certainly in my experience, the positive net outcomes of that far outweigh any of the failures.
Yeah, I agree. Action creates reaction. And if the action happened and it caused a positive, well, that's the reaction to the action. But if the action created a negative, well, you're going to have an equally positive reaction to that negative. Yeah. That's how I view it. We do have to wrap up. Laura's twirling her fingers at me. But Man, good to sit down 3 years later and
I know, right?
And have another. Well, it's actually better. I should probably get all the guests back on the initial guests, because the podcast grows every year.
A rebel tour.
Yeah, and you're going to have more listeners and more things. Like we should do that, Laura. It's important.
I think it'd be good to see where others have. I mean, for us personally, as I said, we've had a really exciting journey over. Since our last chat, the last 3 years have been very transformative for our business, given the things we've already spoken about. It probably would be interesting to see where are those businesses, the other members who you've spoken to in the earlier days.
Where they are now.
Where are they now? It's like that TV show. So, I mean, for us, it's good to be back. It's good to be back chatting with you again. We're really pumped about supporting the awards coming up, and playing a role, ongoing. It's been really exciting.
Oh, we love having you as a member. And if you're a listener who wants to get in contact with Dan to find some international or offshore staff, go to cub.club/podcast and you'll find his details there, along with other great recommendations. Dan, thanks so much for coming in, and hope you enjoyed the show.
Thanks, mate. Ta.